what we're going to do is we're going to kick off the session, and we have our esteemed fellow Hyper Accelerator students, participants. We have some mentors here. We have the one and only Mitch Ratcliffe joining us. We have Paul Bradley and Nalay and some of the other mentors are joining us as well shortly. So we're going to have an action-packed group of people today. We're going to kick off with a 1-minute pitch, right? So just before we start, Irene, just so everyone knows, where are you calling from today?
We are coming from, together with my colleague Nigel, is here from Singapore. Okay. And from Unistop Tech. We developed,
So we're going to start from the Lion City itself, from Singapore, okay? And so let's kick off the session and go from there. I'll introduce myself, okay? And we'll get your 1-minute pitch. Irene, are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Yeah. Irene, my name is Singh. I am the grandson of one of the largest property owners in Singapore, and I'm looking to invest in startups. So tell me what you're working on, Irene.
All right, so let me share. Hello, Ash.
Hi.
I'm Irene from Unistop Tech. And today I would like to share our innovative solution to the convenience store industry. Imagine having access to the convenience store no matter where you are, down the street, in the park, or even next door. And now are becoming reality thanks to our revolutionary robotic convenience store. Deployable anywhere, anytime, unrestricted and all the products at the store are with a robot serving you. Equipped with AI technology and the efficient suppliers chain, our stores require no staff with low or even no rental costs. With 8 successful stores are already operating in Singapore, we are poised to change the industry. We are currently seeking $1.5 million in funding to support the store expansion, technology advancement, and the market growth. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Irene. I appreciate that. So making convenience stores more convenient, right? Very interesting. We have, Irene, we have Mitch here. Mitch, let's kick off with some of your feedback, sir. What were your thoughts on this as you heard this pitch? They're looking for $1.5 million. What were your thoughts, sir?
I think you made a good case to the property owner, the property investor, but I didn't hear what it does for the consumer, and that was the first thing that came to mind is what would bring me into the store. So can you talk a little about what the experience of being in a robotic convenience store is like and why it would be attractive to me as a consumer?
Yeah, and Irene, one question for you. Are they coming to the, so this is a really interesting point, Irene, and so I interpret it a little bit differently, Mitch. I interpreted it as they're sitting in their home and they're sending robots that are going to come by close to your house and give you the stuff.
Well, I did not get the delivery from what you were describing. It sounded like a destination.
That will be the future version.
Okay. So Irene, which version is it? Just from a clarity perspective.
Okay, our initial version now is the customer just can come down to their block. There was a machine, and you can just browse from the screen and take your orders, make a payment, cashless payment. The robotic will action and retrieve what you order the product from the machine and drop into the dispenser machine for you to collect.
Got it. Got it.
Great. Okay.
Got it.
So given that, how large a space are you talking about? Because to be comprehensive, to be an automated bodega, it would be how we would describe this in the United States. How much space does this take?
Okay, our pilot store is about 9 square meters. And we have an improved version is coming soon with a 6 square meters in space.
Is that part of your expansion plan to build these new devices, or is that already something that you have covered financially? Or
this will be part of the expansion plan.
Irene, just so I can understand this, do you actually deliver the whole unit? Is it like, again, just to kind of let an investor know, I know some more details because we spent some time, but for everyone else,
Sure.
are you bringing like a giant vending machine, like a 9 square meter vending machine, or do you leverage your tools to retrofit existing places, right? So if you go to a condominium block or an HDB block, or there's always areas, right? Like 9 square meters might be close to their mailbox. It's not a lot of space. Are you retrofitting, or is your system just an all-encompassing cube that you bring in and go?
Our current version is everything is in one machine, in total 9 square meters. And there will be a future deployment and implementation for the new design. So we are keep on changing and improving the version to suit most of all the spaces, because we see some challenges on that.
Got it. Mr. Bradley, what are your thoughts on the pitch, sir? Welcome. We'll just grab you off of mute and we'll get
I think you're getting better, but it's how you tell the whole story in one bundle, right? Imagine you go to a 7-Eleven store and they have one clerk in the whole store, and different hours, and they're closed part of the time, and they're not where you need them to be. You're literally providing like a container, a portable container that's pre-positioned as a 7-Eleven. And it can be dropped in an HDB, it can be dropped in a neighborhood, it can be brought in for an event for a weekend and then moved out. And it's pre-positioned and it's 24 hours a day. And it's basically a 7-Eleven that's 24 hours a day, but it's automated. And you scale and deploy this across multiple locations, so your cost of goods goes down. And so you're providing competitive pricing without paying fixed rental costs, without paying the labor costs, and you just buy the robotic equipment and you depreciate it. So you're operating 7-Eleven stores that are mobile 24 hours a day at a fraction of the cost, with a lot more profitability, and giving the consumer whatever they want, except a smile. And that is the message you need to get. You need to bundle the whole message together rather than telling part of the story. You have a minute and a half. Tell the whole story bundled together like that. When you told me the first time, I thought of a 7-Eleven. Some are 24 hours, some are 15 hours.
Yeah.
They have labor shortages now, and they're paying a lot of money for that rental space in the city. So I just gave you an example, but package the whole thing in a minute and a half and then tell me. And I already got 6 to 8 of these running in Singapore, which is a high cost land area, and we're getting great reviews, and now we're ready to scale, but we need the money to cross the inflection point. That's what I want to hear.
Got it. Now one other thing that I'm thinking about, Irene, and this is like part of our journey, is to give you as much insights as to what an investor is thinking, right? For me, when I think about 7-Eleven, I guess 7-Eleven is ubiquitous, right? Everyone knows 7-Eleven is the convenience store, right? Mitch, we have 7-Elevens. I think Americans probably invented 7-Eleven. But when I think about it, I think about the high margin products that are in a 7-Eleven, which is cigarettes and alcohol, right? Tell me a little bit about dispensing stuff that would require validation of what I mean? So you need to be a certain age. You need to be able to not sell alcohol if the person's too drunk, I guess. I don't know if there's protocol around this, probably in Singapore. Can you tell me more about that? Because when I look at the business model, it's about ensuring that, and it's really interesting. Over the last, Mitch, over the last, and Paul, over the last 40 years of convenience stores, right? I don't know if they've been around longer, but over the last 40 years, you've kind of seen them transition from like, breads and candy and all that kind of health, like that family-friendly stuff, and it's slowly kind of moved away to alcohol and cigarettes and other stuff. Do you get what I'm saying? That is more 18 plus, right? So Irene, talk to me a little bit about that.
Okay, for the cigarettes and alcohol, we have already think further for this technology. And all the system, actually, we have already connected with the GovTech for identify the consumer's age, to verify their age and the gender for them to purchase the alcohol and the cigarette in the machine. Actually, this is already ready, the system, and in our,
Good.
And however, we have to, another step is we are going to seek government's approval, but that will be a very long journey, but we are still working on it.
Got it. Mitch, you have a question, sir?
Again, paint the practical picture. So do I insert my license and then it looks at my face to match the license image? How does it actually validate?
Okay. In Singapore, we have a SIM Pass app. So we just use the SIM Pass to identify this is the national identification platform for us.
So you're leveraging the biometrics that they already have.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. In an advanced country, Mitch, like Singapore, they have all these tools available to them, right? The question is, when we move you to other countries, right, Irene? So
and Irene, I think the answer is you're looking at product turn and what are the most viable SKUs to carry for the deployment of where you put it, right? That's your answer. I don't have 30,000 SKUs. I have 4,000 SKUs or whatever. I'm choosing the products that we forecast to have the highest demand for where we're putting the location. And if you have the legal approval in Singapore, then you basically can add the alcohol control. And Ash, I just saw a robotic trailer just for beer only, handcrafted beer parked outside Capitol Land, believe it or not, downtown. So it's coming through. But in the places that don't give you the liquor license or the cigarette license, then you sell everything else, right?
Yeah. Love where it's going now, Irene. Like for me, from my perspective, I want to kind of understand a little bit about the unit economics around this and compared to convenience stores, because you did compare them, right? I mean, there's a lower square footage. There is no employees required, but you do have to have the robotics and some of the other components going. Can you tell? I want to know a little bit about the difference in terms of the cost of operation, right? And how your autonomous convenience store, robotic convenience store is more profitable per square foot, right? If we think about how Singaporeans think, right? It's like a square foot, square foot, revenue per square foot. You know what I mean? I still hear. My father-in-law is a Singaporean, and he tells me he's got his favorite story is when he started doing trading. He used to be one of the larger traders in Singapore. He was doing $500 million of trading a year in 500 square feet of space. And so that's a very focal point from a local investor perspective. Tell me about that. The other question I have, Irene, is to take it up a little bit more. If you're successful, where is this going to go? How do you disrupt convenience stores? Or how do you disrupt commerce in general, right? How does that kind of play a role, right? Because for me, I want to know kind of the big picture as well, right? So unit economics and big picture. Go ahead, Irene.
All right. So compare with convenience store, our cost is much, much lower. It's about 1/10 of the convenience store. And then in additional, the convenience store still need to have a renovation expenses, which even the store, when you close, you cannot take it back. And however, for our robotic convenience stores, we can move everywhere. We can deploy. We can, if this business in this location is no good, then we can move to another location without just a transportation fee and without any renovation costs. So I think this will be a very strong point for us, and without any human in the store for us to spend manpower for the cashiering or store keepers. So what we need is just a topping up team and the maintenance team, which other stores, other industry also need. So we can very high to save that manpower cost and the rental cost and even that renovation cost.
Got it. Got it. So Irene, what's your big picture?
Okay, my big picture, for me, I think our revolutionary robotic convenience can change the convenience store industry and help the shop owners to save their costs, and even can help them to continue to operate the store with income. Because in a shop, our stores actually have no losses, even you are an investor. If you open a convenience store, you were facing the renovation fee, you are facing that rental cost every month, you are facing the manpower cost. So for us, this is all not required, all is zero cost. That's why for sure you will earn money, just a matter of how many the percent of your earning and how many years you're going to take that.
Understood. You know, Irene, can I share what I think, if I was your co-founder for just 2 minutes, what I think that your big picture is for me? When I think about what you're doing, I see this like, you know, for me, big picture is if you do this well, what does the business become, right? And if you do that well, what does the business become? And so for me, and you know, we have Mitch and Mr. Paul William Bradley joining us today as well. You know, I see this as like a smart dynamic, okay? It's a smart dynamic hub, right? That you're putting in different parts of Singapore, for instance. And so what starts to happen is because you can move, right, Irene, because you can move, that changes the paradigm, right? Because Singapore changes a lot, right? Demographics changes, right? I don't know if Singapore has gentrification, but, you know, new neighborhoods start to develop, right? And so you might have a place that was ethnically very, you know, Singaporean, and suddenly they put up big condos and suddenly it's an expat community, right? And so the tastes start to change, right? And when you think about tastes, what I see for you is I see this as an opportunity, not just for building a convenience store, right? To drive it at 1/10 the cost, okay? But what you're able to do is you can actually leverage that real estate in order for you to become a masterful distribution channel, right? Distribution channel, not just for convenience stuff, but all your grocery stuff that needs to get delivered. Does that make sense? You know what I mean? Because you're getting all these components together, right? And if you think about it, 9 square feet, getting the person's regular groceries, right? And this is why you have somebody like Mr. Paul William Bradley, right? Expert and superstar in the supply chain space. But getting that together, and then even things like e-commerce delivery, right? Like you think about that, suddenly there you have those components too, right? You can become a digital pharmacy as well, right? You just start to build this up and it starts to serve a lot more. And so although it's 1/10 the cost for convenience, you can do kind of their regular food, you can do e-commerce, you can become that smart hub that evolves and changes, okay, right? And you can also be able to provide information and data to governments like Singapore to better provide. Does that make sense? You know what I mean? Because part of what you're also doing is once you're successful, Irene and we, you know, obviously we're excited to support you as part of the Hyper Accelerator, but for me, it's also about when you have these smart hubs, you also get a sense of what's happening, the food people are eating and all these other components. So my hope is when you get really successful, you'll start to give healthier food to people, but that's a different conversation, right? That's a little bit later on. But do you understand what I mean by big picture? What you're building
is a distribution hub to connect among together. Actually, we have a project with a medical distributor as well in the previous 1.5 years. So yeah, because our coverage is only 8 stores. That's why it's difficult to make it work.
Sure,
So
sure.
yeah, it's already
Understood.
in plan.
Yeah.
You know,
How
a
much
big-
expansion? No, go ahead, Paul.
No, you please go ahead.
How much expansion can $1.5 million buy? Why aren't you raising more? It sounds like you're ready to really
Yes.
hit the gas.
So
Yeah.
our plan is 50 store in Singapore.
Okay.
Because, okay, so aside from once the expansion, if you have
Hmm.
reached 20 stores or 30 stores, the franchisee is coming. We already can generate revenue, so we can still already survive.
Sure, sure, sure. So on the topic of expansion, Irene, do you know how many stores you need to have to completely win Singapore? Do you know what that number is?
About 2,000.
2,000. Okay. So
Yeah.
you know, McDonald's has 125 outlets in Singapore. Okay. So I think
Yeah.
that might be an inflection point for you in terms of success. Mr. Bradley, what are your thoughts, sir?
You're building, you're basically building virtual micro retail outlets controlled by robots and advanced technology, right? It's variable cost, no fixed cost, depreciating on the trailers and the equipment, and you got to buy basic inventory. The challenge is how you build the supply chain for replenishment, right? Because that has a physical side. And you're gonna use contractors, you're gonna use a hub. Like I used to run, you're gonna have to have a hub, and then you're gonna have to have replenishment. And by the way, I ran the McDonald's supply chain for all of Asia. And at that time, 5,800 retailers, now through 13,850. And the bottom line is we replenished between midnight and 6 a.m. every single store in Asia. It only has 24 hours of inventory, and we use the Javi facilities and others hubs, and we use the water as a floating warehouse. So very, very advanced technology, forecasting tools, but you're at a micro level. But once you start to scale, then you're going to have a supply chain partnership that will do automatic replenishment from a mini hub. And so as you scale, you're going to choose cities. And as you do urban centers, you're going to have these, hubs and replenishment cycles going through and monitoring the replenishment requirements of the product. So that has to be built in, because if you don't replenish, then the whole thing collapses. But if you build the right automatic replenishment cycle, then you can scale. And I think 2,000 will be too much for the Singapore market. So it's how you do adjacent moves into KL, into Bangkok, into other places. And higher cost places with higher land are going to be your advantage first to go in and prove the benefit. And then when you scale and the cost comes down, then you can go into the secondary cities. But that's something we'll talk more about in detail.
Yeah. Irene, the supply chain issue and where the company goes, because at the end of the day, it's interesting when you think about the convenience stores and the pharmacies. They had their pharmacies, and then they started buying up the white label medical, cough syrup, and they build their own life brands, right? So there's an angle there that could be had in terms of thought process around what you're doing. Let me ask a question, Irene. Would you like me to pitch this idea back to you? Would you like me to, I know Paul, you wanted to do it, but if it's okay, Paul, I'll jump in and I can do the pitch. What I'm going to do, Irene, is you're looking for $1.5 million. And if I understand correctly, you have started franchising now, or no? Or is that about to happen? Tell me about your franchising thing.
Okay, we already got one franchisee so far. Yeah, and we still have few franchisee is in discussion.
Yeah.
Right now.
Got it. Because that's where you're using some of the capital too, right? Because that's important. I think you missed it in the pitch, because from a money perspective, when a franchisee comes in, it changes the paradigm, right? Because they're also bringing money, right, Paul? And I think maybe that's where the 1.5, Mitch, your question around 1.5 relates to the fact that they're trying to now set themselves up and get this going. Is all the tech and everything built in Singapore? Where are you building the units and everything? Tell us a little bit about the technology piece.
Okay, for the hardware, we purchased a robotic arm from China.
Okay.
And outside the structures, we also built in China. So now we are going to have a partner in Singapore. We want to do everything in Singapore and only just purchase the robotic arm from China.
Got it. Understood. All right. I think I understand this. And we're 9 square meters, right? 9 square meters, right? That's kind of what we're doing. Is it a box? It's more of like a box, 9 square meter box. Right?
Think about a 20-foot container.
20-foot container. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, exactly. So Irene, I'm going to need you to introduce yourself, and I will aim to pitch this idea back to you. Go ahead. So you introduce yourself, you become the investor now. So you just say, hi, I'm, do you know what I mean?
Okay.
Irene, I'm, do you know what I mean? Whoever you want to be. And I will pitch your idea back to you. All right. So go ahead. You can introduce yourself.
Okay. I'm Irene, one of the investor, and I'm used to invest for the retail industry. So I heard you have Ash, you are developer a robotic convenience store. It's very interesting. Would you like to share something with me?
Yes, would love to share. My name is Ash Singh. I'm part of the Unistop team. As you might know, the convenience store industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry that hasn't really evolved. It requires people to go buy expensive real estate, set up shop, pay for all those components, and then run an organization through that. We have discovered now that in 9 square meters, we can actually build pre-purpose built robotic convenience stores that run at 1/10 the cost with 0 setup cost. And we can put them down in different places around the Singapore island. We're looking to now expand. We have our first 8 in the market, and we feel that this is going to revolutionize how people interact with convenience stores. But beyond that, we want to drive this for use our robotic technology to provide pharmaceuticals, provide other forms of food and nutrients, maybe e-commerce, and become that digital hub in every single community starting in Singapore. We think that this is going to be the future, and we'd love to chat to you about a $1.5 million raise we're looking for as we start to franchise our business and take it to the next stage. Would love to chat to you more about this over a coffee. Thank you. Okay, so Irene, that was my attempt to explain, and I added the big picture in, right? I added kind of where I felt some of these components were going. I brought in the costing elements as well into the pitch, right? I also explained what the money is going to be used for, right? The franchising component, just to kind of weave in some of the questions that Mitch and Paul had as well, right? Irene, does that make sense, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think this is like, it's really interesting where you're going, Irene, and I think your inflection point is now, right? It's so interesting. I remember when my second company, we built the loyalty program for McDonald's. And I remember when we went from our first 10, and then we went to all 125 McDonald's outlets in Singapore. It's an amazing ride, and we love what you're doing. There are some questions in the chat for you, Irene, but let's continue this process, help you with the fundraise and execution, and also your market expansion, right? Irene, I appreciate your time today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.